My family betrayed me in court. Now my sons beg for my help after their mom betrayed them too. My name's Daniel Parker, and for most of my life I thought family meant loyalty. I thought blood meant something. I was wrong. 5 years ago, I lost custody of my twin sons, Caleb and Mason. It wasn't because I was abusive or neglectful. It wasn't because I didn't love them. I did. God, I did. I lost them because my own family, my parents, my sister, and even my cousin lied under oath to protect my ex-wife, Rachel. Rachel and I had a rocky marriage. She was manipulative, a master at twisting facts until even I questioned my own memory. When we separated, I wanted shared custody. That's all. But she wanted everything. So she pulled strings. She painted me as unstable, even dangerous. And my family? They backed her up. They said I had a temper, that I drank too much, that I scared the boys. None of it was true. But in court, perception is everything. And when your own mother sits on the witness stand and says she's afraid of you, well, no judge is going to hand you custody. So I lost them. I moved across state lines to start over, rebuild my life. I got a quiet job at a small garage in Missouri. I didn't date. I didn't party. I just worked and waited. I sent birthday gifts. I mailed letters. Rachel never gave them to the boys. I know that now. Fast forward to 2 months ago. It was a Friday evening, and I was closing up shop when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. Same number. I answered. Dad? The voice was shaky but unmistakable. Caleb. I froze. Caleb? Is that really you? He started crying. They were 16 now, and things had gone downhill fast. Rachel remarried a guy named Trevor, who turned out to be worse than her. Verbally abusive, sometimes worse. The boys had tried to tell my parents, but no one listened. They said you were the monster, Mason told me later, but he's 10 times worse. We met in secret a week later. I drove 5 hours to a gas station off the highway near their town. They looked older, tired, like they hadn't slept right in months. They told me everything about how Rachel ignored them, how Trevor broke things when he drank, how they sometimes had to sleep in the garage because he needed his space. And then they told me something that made my blood run cold. They had audio recordings. Turns out Mason had secretly been recording conversations on an old phone. Arguments, yelling, even a moment when Rachel said, I should have just let your dad have you. He was the better parent. I took those recordings and started digging. I reconnected with a lawyer friend from my old life, Jessica Moore. She believed me. She listened to the recordings, read the transcripts, and said, this might be enough to reopen the case. But here's where things got worse. My sister, Lindsay, found out I'd met the boys, and suddenly, my old family started crawling out of the woodwork. First, a message from my mom, you're making a mistake. Rachel is still their legal guardian. Stay away. Then, a voicemail from my dad, you're gonna ruin their lives. You already did enough damage. Enough damage? They had lied in court. They helped take my sons away. And now they wanted me to do what? Stand back and watch as my boys suffer again? No, not this time. I told Caleb and Mason the truth that my family helped Rachel win custody, that they'd betrayed me. They didn't believe it at first. But then I showed them the documents, the court transcripts, my sister's affidavit full of lies. The heartbreak on their faces will haunt me forever. And then came the final piece. Last week, Rachel called me. I recorded the call, the entire thing, 30 minutes of her crying, rambling, and finally admitting, okay, maybe I exaggerated some things in court, but you were never supposed to come back into their lives. You were supposed to move on. I didn't say much. Just thank you for your honesty. Then I hung up and sent the full recording to Jessica. We're going to court next month. This time I have proof, and this time my boys are old enough to speak for themselves. But here's the part that stings. When all this is over, I won't just be rebuilding a relationship with my sons. I'll be mourning the death of my old family. Because once someone betrays you like that, you can never go back. It had been 3 years since the court took my boys from me. I still remember the day the judge ruled against me, not because I was an unfit father, not because I had done anything wrong, but because my own family stood on the side of my ex-wife, Lauren. They sat on her side of the courtroom. My mother, my brother, even my sister testified that I was emotionally unstable, that I couldn't provide a healthy environment for the boys. Lies, all of it. Lies they told because they believed Lauren's charm, or maybe because they always saw me as the black sheep. I never forgave them, and I never forgot. Since then, I had built my life back in silence. I moved to a small town an hour away. I worked construction jobs during the week and volunteered at the local community center on weekends. I kept my head down. The only thing that truly haunted me was losing Jackson and Eli, my sons. I wasn't allowed to call them. Lauren had full custody. She blocked my number, and every birthday card I sent was returned unopened. Until last Friday. That's when the phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Hello," I said. There was silence, then a shaky voice. "Dad?" It was Jackson, my son. I nearly dropped the phone. "Jackson? Is that really you?" "Yeah, it's me. Listen, I know I'm not supposed to call, but we need help." My heart froze. "What's going on? Are you safe?" There was rustling in the background. Then another voice, Eli. "Mom's gone," he said. "She left us, took off with some guy. We don't have anywhere to go." I gripped the phone so tight it creaked. My blood boiled, but I kept my voice calm. "Where are you now?" "We're at a gas station near Mom's old apartment. She hasn't been back in days. We've been sleeping in the car." That was all I needed to hear. "I'm coming to get you." I drove like a madman. I didn't care about the restraining order, the legal threats, the court rulings. My sons needed me. That overrode every other concern. When I pulled into the gas station, I saw them, sitting by the side of a vending machine, their backpacks beside them, looking far too thin for boys their age. I got out of the truck. "Dad?" Jackson ran first, then Eli. We hugged, all three of us crying, right there in front of a row of gas pumps. I took them home, gave them a real meal, let them shower. And while they were sleeping that night, I opened the recorder I had hidden in the kitchen wall. See, after the court ruling 3 years ago, I didn't just walk away in silence. I knew something about Lauren. She wasn't the sweet, innocent woman my family thought she was. She could manipulate anyone. But I had proof no one believed back then. So I started collecting more. Over time, I managed to record phone calls, voice messages, and even conversations between Lauren and my family. Conversations where they openly admitted that they lied in court to help Lauren keep things stable, and that they couldn't trust me because I didn't play by the family's rules. I had it all. And now, with my sons back in my home, betrayed by the very people who swore to protect them, I knew I had to act. I pressed play. That night, while Jackson and Eli slept in the guest room, I listened to every recording, every word, every betrayal. I organized the files, named each one, and loaded them onto a USB. Morning came. The boys looked more alive than I'd seen in years. They asked if they could stay. I told them yes, no matter what, I would protect them. And this time I had the truth. This time they weren't going to take my sons away again. This time I had evidence. I didn't sleep much the night after I recorded the conversation. My hands were shaking as I replayed the audio again and again, listening to my own mother, my ex-wife Jessica, and my brother Eric talk about how they manipulated the court system, how they painted me as unstable, how they kept my sons away from me for years, all for control, money, and image, and now they needed me. Jake and Aiden, my boys, were staying in my apartment temporarily, but they were still shell-shocked. Jessica had remarried, but her new husband had turned out to be abusive. She kicked the boys out when they refused to cover for him. My mother, who once swore she'd raised them better than I ever could, told them they were ungrateful. And now I was the only one left. I wanted to be there for my sons. God knows I did. But I couldn't just forgive what happened. They destroyed my life. They turned my own blood against me. And the fact that they now expected me to step up like nothing had happened, it made my blood boil. But I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to win. The next morning, I told Jake and Aiden we'd go out for breakfast. I needed them out of the house. I had work to do. As they ordered pancakes and eggs at the diner, I went back to the apartment. I uploaded the recording to a secure cloud folder, made copies on 2 different flash drives, and gave one to my attorney. I hadn't spoken to him in years, but when he heard the audio, he muttered one word, "Damn." He agreed to help me, pro bono if he had to. "This isn't just custody anymore," he said. "This is fraud, perjury. You could sue for damages," but I didn't care about suing. Not yet. I wanted justice. And I wanted my boys back, not just physically, but emotionally. I wanted them to trust me again, to know I never walked away, that I never stopped loving them, even when the world told them I was a monster. That weekend, Jessica showed up at my door. She looked tired, thin, scared. "They won't talk to me," she said, her voice trembling. "Jake won't even look at me." "You kicked them out," I replied, keeping my tone cold. "I was scared," she snapped. "I didn't know what else to do. Just like you were scared when you told the judge I was dangerous," I cut her off. "When you let my own mother testify that I was unstable?" She froze. "I have the recording, Jessica," I said quietly. "Of you, Eric, and my mother." Her face drained of color. "You recorded us?" "No, you recorded yourselves. You left the baby monitor on." Silence. And then she whispered, "What do you want?" I stared at her. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask why. Why did she take my kids from me? Why did she lie? But instead, I said, "I want you to tell them the truth, in front of them, and I want my name cleared in court." She hesitated. Then she nodded. We met at a neutral location. My lawyer was present, along with a family mediator. Jake and Aiden sat on the couch, arms crossed, guarded. Jessica sat across from them, and then she told the truth. She admitted the lies, the manipulation, how she let Grandma and Uncle Eric twist things to get custody, how she believed she was protecting the boys, but now knew she wasn't. They didn't say much, but Jake's eyes welled up. "You let us believe Dad didn't want us," he whispered. "I know," Jessica sobbed, "and I will never forgive myself." Neither of the boys spoke to her afterward, but they hugged me that night, for the first time in years. And me? I filed a motion to have my custody rights fully restored and my record cleared. With a recording in Jessica's statement, it was almost guaranteed. But I didn't stop there. My mother and brother, they still thought they'd won, but soon they'd find out the truth. Because the confession I had, it wasn't just for court, it was going public. The next day, I sat alone at the old kitchen table, the same one where I used to eat breakfast with my sons before school. The wood still had the knife marks from when Brandon tried to learn how to cook at 13. I ran my hand over the grooves, remembering how he'd smiled through the disaster of burnt eggs. Back then, I was Dad. Just Dad. I wasn't a criminal. I wasn't a villain. But my ex-wife, Lori, and her family made sure the court saw me that way. When I lost custody 3 years ago, it wasn't because I was dangerous. It was because I was outnumbered and betrayed. Lori's brother, a lawyer, manipulated the narrative. Her parents testified against me. Even my own sister turned cold, echoing things she never used to believe. They painted me like some unstable man, angry, impulsive, a bad influence. The truth? I was just trying to protect my boys from the lies, from Lori's manipulation, from the screaming matches she picked and the silent treatment she used like a weapon. But in court, truth meant nothing without allies. I had none. Until now. The doorbell rang. I opened the door to see Brandon and Caleb standing there. Their faces were tired, worn down in ways no teenage boys should look. Brandon clutched his phone like a lifeline. Caleb wouldn't even meet my eyes. "Can we come in?" Brandon asked softly. I nodded and stepped aside. They sat at the table. Brandon took a breath and spoke first. "We were wrong about you. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and slid it toward me. "I want you to hear this." I pressed play. Lori's voice filled the room. "Just lie, okay? Say your dad made you feel unsafe. The court won't check. I need full custody. His presence just messes things up." Then another voice, Lori's mom. "You boys don't need him. We'll take care of you. Just go along with it." Silence. Then a trembling voice I recognized as Brandon's, years younger. But he didn't do anything. Click. The audio stopped. Brandon looked at me, his hands shaking. "She recorded everything. Caleb found it in her old iCloud account. She forgot to delete it. She lied to us, Dad. She made us believe you were the bad guy." Caleb finally looked up. "She kicked us out last week. Said we were too difficult. I caught her cheating and she said I was disrespectful. Brandon tried to stand up for me and she threw his stuff out on the lawn. I felt like the air had left the room. They had nowhere else to go." "You can stay here," I said. "As long as you need." They both looked stunned. Brandon's voice cracked. "After everything, you still want us here?" "You're my sons," I said. "I never stopped wanting you." They broke down. I held them both, something I hadn't done in years. Later that night, I sat on the porch while they slept inside. I listened to the wind and stared at the stars, wondering how things had come full circle. I had their voices now, and their trust. That recording was more than a confession. It was proof, legal proof, and maybe, just maybe, I could finally clear my name. But more than that, I had them back. The next morning, I made pancakes, just like I used to. Brandon even helped, without burning them this time. Caleb laughed more than I'd heard him laugh in years. That evening, I uploaded the audio to a private server and contacted my lawyer. A new one, a good one. We're going to court. This time, I'm not walking in alone. And I'm bringing the truth with me. The day of the court hearing arrived with the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights pressing on me. I woke up early, my hands trembling as I prepared my sons for school, the usual chaos of breakfast mixed with nervous anticipation. Brandon and Caleb were quiet, but I caught the flicker of hope in their eyes. It had been a long time since we had a moment like this, a moment where we could believe in a future together. My new lawyer, Jessica, was sharp and no nonsense. When we met the week before, she'd told me, "We have something solid. The recordings are going to blow the case wide open. It's not just evidence. It's a mirror showing their lies." As we walked into the courthouse, I could feel the weight of every judgmental glance. The same faces from the previous trials, Lori's family, the same judge who'd ruled against me before, the courtroom full of whispers. But this time, I wasn't just a man fighting alone. I had my sons. I had the truth. The proceedings began. Lori's lawyer was confident, almost smug, but Jessica countered every claim with calm precision. When she played the recordings, the entire courtroom fell silent. The evidence was damning. Lori's manipulation, her family's involvement, the lies fed to my sons, everything laid bare. I watched Brandon and Caleb during the playback. Their eyes filled with tears, but they sat tall, finally free from the burden of forced betrayal. When it was my turn to speak, my voice was steady. I've never stopped loving my sons. I've made mistakes, but I have always tried to protect them from harm, even when the people closest to them turned against me. The judge listened. For the first time, it felt like someone in that room saw me as more than just a name in a file. After hours of testimony, cross-examinations, and heated arguments, the judge finally called for a recess. Outside the courtroom, I hugged my sons. No matter what happens, we're in this together. The next day, the verdict was delivered. I was granted partial custody, weekends and holidays with Brandon and Caleb. Not everything I wanted, but a huge step forward. More importantly, the judge ordered a full investigation into Lori's behavior and her family's involvement in manipulating the case. It wasn't a total win, but it was a start. Over the next weeks, I focused on rebuilding trust with my sons. We spent late nights talking about everything, their fears, their hopes, the years lost. Brandon opened up about how confused and scared he'd been, how torn between two worlds. Caleb admitted how much he'd missed having a real dad around. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. Meanwhile, Lori's world started unraveling. The investigation revealed financial misconduct, emotional abuse, and the lengths she went to keep me away from my boys. Her family's support faltered as secrets spilled out. The same sister who testified against me now faced questions about her role in the deception. Social media lit up with stories, some supportive, some critical, but I ignored the noise. My focus was my sons. One afternoon, Brandon asked, "Dad, do you think things will ever be normal again?" I looked at him, seeing the weight of those 7 words. "Maybe not normal like before," I said, "but real, honest, and that's better than anything else." Caleb nodded, squeezing my hand. I realized that what we'd lost in years couldn't be rushed back overnight. It was going to be a long road, filled with setbacks, tough conversations, and rebuilding broken bonds. But for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Hope that one day, my sons would know a father who fought for them, not just in court, but in every moment that mattered, and I'd never stop fighting. The fragile peace we'd started to build was shattered quicker than I ever imagined. Just when I thought things might finally turn a corner, a new storm hit, one I hadn't seen coming. It started with a simple phone call late one evening. The voice on the other end was shaky, unfamiliar but urgent. "Dad, it's Brandon. Mom's not answering and Caleb's scared. Something's wrong." My heart dropped. I grabbed my keys, threw on my jacket, and sped to Lori's place, the house that used to be our home, now a battleground of secrets and lies. When I got there, the front door was ajar. Inside, the place was a mess, overturned furniture, shattered glass, and there were the boys huddled together in the corner, faces pale and eyes wide. "What happened?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. Brandon swallowed hard. "Mom?" She was yelling. Then she left. She said she was never coming back. Caleb clung to me, trembling. "I don't want to be here alone." I sat down beside them, trying to be the calm in the chaos. But inside, a million thoughts raced through my mind. Lori's betrayal was deeper than I'd realized. The emotional abuse, the manipulation. It wasn't just about keeping me away from my sons. It was about control, about breaking us apart completely. That night, I made a decision. No more waiting. No more hoping the system or others would protect my boys. I'd become their shield. The following days were a whirlwind. I contacted social services, the police, anyone who would listen. The evidence of neglect and abuse was piling up. But even with all this, the courts hesitated to act swiftly. The legal system, supposed to protect families, often felt like a maze designed to trap us. Meanwhile, the boys and I moved into a small apartment I'd been renting quietly, away from prying eyes, away from the shadows of the past. We started the slow process of healing. Therapy sessions, long talks, and rebuilding trust. But the scars Lori left weren't easy to erase. One afternoon, Brandon confessed something that broke me. "Dad, I used to think you didn't want us, that you gave up." His words hit me harder than any courtroom verdict. "I never gave up on you, son," I said, holding him close. "Not for a second." Caleb nodded in agreement, his small face serious. "We needed you." Those moments, raw and painful, reminded me why I was fighting. It wasn't just about custody or legal battles anymore. It was about being the father they deserved, the one who stood by them no matter what. But the fight wasn't over. Lori's family, humiliated and exposed, wasn't done yet. They launched a campaign to discredit me, spreading rumors, twisting truths, trying to turn public opinion against me. I found myself on the receiving end of whispers in grocery stores, suspicious glances at school pickups, and venomous messages online. Yet, despite the backlash, I refused to back down. For every attack, I had 100 reasons to keep fighting. My son's smiles after a good day at school, their laughter during bedtime stories, their hugs when the world felt cold. These were the victories no one else could see. And then, Just when I thought we might finally catch a break, a new challenge appeared. Lori's lawyer filed an emergency motion, claiming I was unfit to care for the boys due to my interference and disruptive behavior. I was stunned. How could wanting to protect my sons be twisted into something so sinister? The courtroom became a battleground again, with new accusations and fresh attacks. But this time, I was prepared, armed with recordings, testimonies from therapists, and support from teachers who saw the boys' struggles. I fought harder than ever. Each hearing drained me, but with every session, the truth edged closer to the surface. I wasn't perfect. I'd made mistakes. But my love for Brandon and Caleb was real, unwavering. And no lie could erase that. As the weeks dragged on, I found unexpected allies, friends, neighbors, even some distant family members who'd seen the truth all along but were too afraid to speak. Their support reminded me that I wasn't alone. The fight for my sons was a marathon, not a sprint, and no matter how long it took, I was ready to run every mile. Because losing them once had almost broken me, losing them again was not an option. The courtroom had become my second home, a place where hope and despair tangled in a cruel dance. Every session, every cross-examination chipped away at me, but I refused to let it break my spirit. The latest hearing was especially brutal. Lori's lawyer was relentless, throwing every accusation they could muster. They painted me as unstable, obsessed, and unfit. Their words echoed in the sterile room, trying to drown out the truth I carried in my heart. But I had my own weapon this time, the recordings. Those secret confessions I'd captured, moments when Lori and her family revealed their true intentions. I played them for the judge, each word a dagger piercing the web of lies. The room fell silent. I saw surprise flicker across Lori's face, a mixture of anger and fear. For the first time, the mask was slipping. Outside the courtroom, the world felt heavier. The media caught wind of the case, spinning their stories with sensational headlines and biased takes. Some called me a hero, others painted me as a desperate ex trying to regain control. The court of public opinion was messy and unforgiving. My phone buzzed non-stop, messages of support from friends, but also cruel comments from strangers who didn't know the full story. Social media became a battlefield, and I had no choice but to shield my boys from the noise. At home, Brandon and Caleb were the center of my universe. Their resilience amazed me daily. Despite everything, they were still just kids, laughing, dreaming, and trying to make sense of the chaos around them. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Brandon asked me quietly, "Dad, will everything be okay? Will we stay together?" I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. "We will, no matter what." Those moments reminded me why I fought so hard, not for the court, not for the judgments, but for my son's future. But the fight wasn't just legal, it was personal. The betrayal from people I once called family cut deeper than any courtroom exchange. I grappled with anger, sadness, and a profound sense of loss. How could those closest to me turn their backs in my darkest hour? Therapy helped, for me and for the boys. We faced our demons together, peeling back layers of pain and rebuilding trust brick by brick. Slowly, I started to see the cracks in Lori's facade beyond the courtroom. Her desperation was palpable, her carefully constructed world unraveling. One afternoon, a surprise visitor arrived at my apartment, a woman named Angela, Lori's sister. She looked nervous, hesitant. "I can't stay silent anymore," she whispered. "Lori's been hiding things you need to know." Her words sparked a new wave of hope. Angela revealed details about Lori's struggles with addiction, her manipulation of family members, and the orchestrated efforts to alienate me from the boys. She offered documents, texts, and even contacts that could corroborate her story. With this new evidence, my lawyer and I prepared for the next hearing with renewed vigor. The courtroom battle intensified. The judge was more engaged, questioning Lori's credibility and ordering further investigations. Still, Lori fought back viciously, her desperation turning to threats and intimidation. both inside and outside court. One night, I received a chilling voicemail. "You think you've won? This isn't over. You'll regret crossing me," fear mixed with determination. I wasn't just fighting for custody anymore. I was fighting for our safety. I increased security measures, changed routines, and kept the boys close. Meanwhile, the community began to rally. Friends, neighbors, and even some distant relatives stepped forward, sharing stories of Lori's past behavior and supporting my cause. Brandon and Caleb thrived despite everything, excelling in school, making new friends, and slowly reclaiming their childhood. As the legal battle wore on, I realized something crucial. Winning custody was only part of the journey. The real victory was healing, for me, for the boys, and even for Lori if she could find a way out of her darkness. One day, after a long session, I sat with Brandon and Caleb in the park. We watched the sunset, a quiet moment of peace amid the storm. Brandon leaned against me and said, "No matter what happens, we have each other." And in that simple truth, I found strength. The fight was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I believed we could win. Not just the custody, but the chance for a better life. The courtroom felt different that day, heavier, quieter, as if everyone inside sensed that something was finally shifting. After months of back and forth, accusations, and emotional turmoil, the moment of truth was near. The judge reviewed every piece of evidence, every recording, every testimony. My lawyer had done an incredible job weaving together the story that had been buried beneath layers of lies and manipulation. I watched my sons, Brandon and Caleb, clutching each other's hands tightly, their eyes wide with both hope and fear. I could see how much this fight had weighed on them, how the instability had bruised their young hearts. Lori sat across the room, her eyes cold but tired, a stark contrast to the woman who once seemed invincible, the woman who once promised me everything, now exposed for the cracks beneath her carefully crafted facade. When the judge finally spoke, her voice was steady, deliberate. "I have considered all evidence presented, the welfare of the children, and the circumstances surrounding this case. It is my ruling that full custody of Brandon and Caleb be awarded to their father, Michael." A wave of relief crashed over me. Tears stung my eyes, but I fought to stay composed. I swallowed hard, not just for myself, but for the boys who were watching me closely. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe again. Walking out of the courthouse with my boys by my side was surreal. The media buzzed around us, flashing cameras and probing questions, but none of it mattered. We were finally together. At home, I watched Brandon and Caleb explore their rooms, laugh freely, and reclaim their childhood. The weight of the past began to lift, replaced by hope and possibility. We stayed up late talking, just the three of us, sharing dreams and making plans, simple things that had once seemed impossible. But healing wasn't instant. The scars ran deep, from the betrayal by family to the deception by someone I once trusted. Therapy sessions continued, slowly unearthing pain but also building resilience. Some days were harder than others. Nights when I'd lie awake, wondering if the wounds would ever fully close. One night, as I tucked Caleb into bed, he whispered, "Dad, do you think Mom will ever be okay?" I hesitated, then said, "I hope so, buddy. We all need help sometimes." His small hand squeezed mine tightly, a silent reminder of why I was fighting. For their safety, their happiness, their future. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to walk it with my sons. Interestingly, Lori's family reached out a few weeks later. Angela, her sister, apologized for the chaos and offered to help facilitate healing, both for Lori and for us. It was a tentative olive branch, one I wasn't sure I was ready to accept, but it signaled the possibility of peace. Professionally and personally, I began to rebuild my life. I enrolled in parenting classes, connected with support groups, and even started a blog to share my experience, hoping it might help others facing similar battles. The betrayal had nearly broken me, but it also ignited a fire, I wasn't just fighting for custody, I was fighting for a future where honesty, trust, and love could thrive. Still, shadows lingered. I knew the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. At times, I caught myself staring at old photographs, wondering how things might have been different. I thought about the family dinners that ended in silence, the whispered conversations behind my back, and the moments I had questioned my own worth. But those moments only made me more determined. With Brandon and Caleb beside me, I felt stronger than ever. The past wouldn't define us. We were writing a new story, one of resilience, redemption, and hope. And this time, it was ours. As I watched my boys fall asleep that night, I whispered a promise to myself and to them: no matter what comes next, I will protect you. I will fight for you, and we will face the future together, unbroken, unshaken. Because family isn't just about blood, it's about love, loyalty, and standing up when it matters most. And that, I vow, is exactly what I will do.